If you haven't realized it yet, no one cares about your music. Let's talk about that. Hey everybody, it's not all bad, but that kind of is a sobering statement, isn't it? So, for quite some time I've been wanting to do a series to share with you some thoughts that I have in terms of building an audience, getting your first release out there, and getting people interested in your music. I've talked about it some, but I think putting together, a few videos in a series would be a good way just to share some of the things I've learned. And I got a comment the other day that kind of put me over the edge and made me think, man, I got to do this thing. This is from Stefan, who is from Germany. Hey, Bill, I've got a question for you. How did you promote your first releases? In other words, how did you get to start getting people interested in your music? I've just put together an EP with instrumental/ambient music and uploaded it to YouTube, Bandcamp, and SoundCloud. But despite of sharing it in groups on Facebook and on a German musicians forum, I don't seem to be able to get people to click on it. I'm not even sure if my postings on Facebook are visible to other people, albeit being approved by the administrators. I'm still deciding on which distributing service to use, Spotify, etc., but right now I'm primarily looking for feedback and some constructive criticism so that I know what I should work on for future releases. Reaching an audience that just wants to listen is not my main goal, yet I'm working on it. Well, I don't blame you, Stefan. Do you know of any places I should go, maybe somewhere where you got help in your early days? I am still learning. I really am. But over the last, almost 6 years now that I've been on YouTube, I have learned a few things. And that's what I'd like to share in this kind of next series of videos. So what I'd like to share on today's video is the bad news. Now there's good news, right? The good news is that we live in a time when it is possible to grow an audience for your music on the internet. We have access to literally the entire world. Well, not literally, but figuratively, practically the entire world. Billions of people are out there. If you've got billions of people, you know there's going to be an audience for what you do. So that is awesome. But there are some sobering realities, and that's what I'd like to focus on. And that first one is what the title of this video is. No one cares about your music. And that's an unfortunate truth. When you first put your music out for people to listen to, no one cares about it. No one knows about it. No one knows who you are. They don't care about your music. And guess who cares about your music? You do. I care about my music. I care deeply about my music. But no one else does. So that's the first thing we need to remember. No one cares about your music. And that's okay. That's okay. We're going to work on kind of fixing that, if you will, or changing that. All right, so that's the reality number one. Reality number two, your music has no value. Does that shock you for me to say that? Well, it's kind of true. Your music has no value to the people who don't care about your music. Does that make sense? If people don't care about your music, they don't put any value on your music. And this reminds me of a few years ago when Taylor Swift withdrew all of her music off of streaming platforms, I think in particular Spotify. And I remember reading an article in which she said something along the lines of, they're not paying what the music is intrinsically worth. Well, I believe that people have intrinsic value. Each one of us has an incredible amount of value. But our artwork has no intrinsic value. The only value that it has is what other people put into it or put onto it, if you will. It's the value that they think it has. That's the value that it has. So when we first start out, people don't care about us or our music, and they don't value our music. So that's number one and number two. Number three, this one's rough. At least it's rough for me because I have a big ego. And number three is your music isn't as good as you think it is. It's not as good as you think it is. My music is not as good as I think it is. And I am reminded of that every time I critically listen to other musicians that I really like. If I sit down and listen to them, and I'll give you one name, one of my guitar heroes, Alan Holdsworth, may he rest in peace. He passed away last year. Every time I listen to his music, I'm just blown away by the talent he had on the instrument. And not only do I enjoy the music, but I'm humbled by the music. I'm humbled by his vast artistry. Okay, so our music isn't as good as we think it is. And that's okay. So we got the first three, right? People don't care, they don't value, and you're not as good as you think you are. Oh man, that's really depressing, isn't it? Well, can I share something else that's a little depressing? Number four, it's really hard to get people's attention. It's really hard to get people's attention. Think about the way you consume content. Think about the emails you get, the social network messages, social feeds, etc. You've got so much content coming at you each and every day. It's really hard for people to get your attention, right? Instagram. You're on Instagram? Do you just kind of go, of course you do. YouTube, you hit YouTube, you've got the screen, the home screen, you've got a lot of videos that YouTube is shoving at you. How do you pick one to watch? It's really hard to get people's attention. All right, so those are four sobering truths. You know, people don't care about us. They don't value us or our art. We're not as good as we think we are, and it's really hard to get people's attention. Well, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? Well, it's not. It is not a recipe for disaster at all. But if you get into this thing of making music and trying to get it out there for people to listen to and enjoy, if you don't think about these truths, you're going to be so disappointed, you're going to give up. You're just going to give up and say, well, I can't do it. And the art that you might have made will never happen. The people who might enjoy your music will never have a chance to enjoy it. And the pleasure and joy that you might have had from creating art and interacting with your audience is something you'll never experience. So don't get too depressed. And that's what this series is all about. Kind of solving for those problems and actually building an audience and getting people interested in your music. So before I go, I don't want to leave you all sad and depressed. I want to give you two encouraging thoughts to think about and to do. Encouraging thought number one is that creating art and sharing it is a value proposition. Okay, so if I create something, so here's a guitar pedal, maybe I created this, I didn't really, but let's say I did, and I say, ooh, this has value, it sounds wonderful. If I can help people, other people understand the value of this pedal, then they're going to be more likely to want to get it and experience the value, the wonderful sounds that it can make. And I'm going to hide this because I don't want to act like I'm promoting a particular pedal. I just literally had it on the floor and I picked it up. So I could pick up another pedal. Okay, here's another pedal, right? All right, so that is what we're going to be aiming for over these next several episodes is how do we not only create the art, but how do we create a value proposition so people look at your art, listen to your music and go, whoa, there's a lot of value here. I really like this. I want to investigate it more. I want to listen to it more. I want to learn about the musician. I want to get into it. The second encouraging thought is simply this: don't stop creating. And if you are not currently creating, start creating. Okay, start making music. There are many musicians out there that say, oh, it's just too hard, I can't do it, or I tried. And in some cases, I'll be talking to musicians that kind of say things like that. And I'll say, well, how many songs did you write last year? And they'll say, well, I wrote one song. Okay. When's the last time you released a record, or a tape or a digital recording? Oh, and I'm old, right? So I might be talking to somebody who's old like me. I released an album back in 1983. You haven't done anything since then? No. You get my point, right? If you're not creating, there's not going to be any value that you can share with others, or that you can communicate what the value is about. If you don't have anything to share, well, you're dead in the water. So the last encouraging thought, and I think I want to be encouraging, right, is just start creating. And since we're talking about sharing on the internet and we're talking about recordings and things like that, that's what you need to start and continue to do. Create and record music, okay? Don't stop. Even if you're not releasing it, be recording it on a regular basis as often as you can so that you're building up an inventory of recorded music. All right, if you're watching this video later in the series, here's a link to the playlist of my series. If this truly is the first episode, then I've got a link here to some other content. I hope you'll check it out. Also subscribe, hit the bell notification so you can keep abreast of what's going on here. I'll see y'all on the next video.